Hello, fellow human. This is day 24 of my 30-day talk to camera challenge, and today I'm talking about a hobby. I'm going to continue yesterday's discussion of my reignited passion for house music, and I'm going to talk about how I discover and purchase and then prepare music that I eventually will mix and have fun, a lot of fun doing so. There are a number of places that you can go to buy music, and of course, I always want to suggest to folks that they should buy their music instead of downloading it for free from somewhere. You should support the artists. So whatever marketplace that you want to choose to purchase your music eventually, I use TrackSource. Other people use things like Beatport or Bandcamp, or I'm sure there's any number of other ones. But you go to the one you want where they have previews of these songs that are being released that you might want to purchase. And so I'll listen to music in a subgenre or a category that describes what I'm looking for, obviously. I'll make a playlist of all those songs that were released, for example, that week in that subgenre. And then I'll go through and listen to the previews that are available on TrackSource in my example. And if I hear something, usually I can tell within the first 5 or 10 seconds whether I'm going to like it or not. There are a lot of sounds and tones that I don't like. There's a lot of styles that I don't prefer. So it's pretty easy for me to go through and give each thing a 15 or 20 second listen, and I can either eliminate it and skip to the next one, or if there's something intriguing about it, I'll typically jump over to YouTube and look up the song there and listen to the whole thing beginning to end, because you only get a little preview on these digital music marketplace websites. And so I'll listen to the whole thing. If it is still something that I think has a very good to great chance of being a song that I would want to enjoy again in the future by mixing it, then I'll put it into a playlist in YouTube called Wishlist. You can call yours whatever you want. I just put it there to park it because I want to listen to a song a few times before I pull the trigger on purchasing it, because I don't want to clutter up my crate. I want there to be a good chance that no matter what song I pick from the crate to play, it's going to be something that I really enjoy. So I do this, and over time I'll build up a nice wish list in YouTube. I'll make sure I'm listening to these songs a few different times, 3 or 4 times, on different days, different moods. And if it's still something that I think, I definitely want to have some fun with this, then I'll go ahead and buy it. I usually do this every couple weeks. And so that's how I source my music and how I purchase my music. You get a digital download, and here's how I prepare my music. I use the Rekordbox software. It's kind of hand in hand with Pioneer. You could use Serato also, or there's any other number of ways that you can do it. I'm just talking about the way I do. I load all these songs that I have newly purchased into Rekordbox in a playlist that I've labeled WIP for work in progress. I want to isolate them until they're ready for me to play them, because I want to prepare them in a number of ways. The first thing I do is I'll give each song a listen and make sure that the beat grid has been aligned properly. I'll also take a note in the comments for the song about what relative trim I want it to be. I do this by loading it onto a deck. I bring the channel fader all the way up. I put the lows, the mids, and the highs at 12 o'clock. So this signifies to me full EQ band, full volume slam in. And then what I do is I adjust the trim until the point where at the loudest point in that song that it's just barely making one red bar pop. And I do this because sometimes songs are produced different. They have different audio engineering. And I want to make sure that everything is as loud as everything else, relatively speaking, when I mix it. So having that little note there says, oh, okay, this one has to be, the trim has to be at 5. This one, the trim has to be at 4. And then, of course, I use my ear once the blend starts to fine tune that. It just gives me a good bit of information up front. I will also tag the song with some categories that I've created. And these categories do a number of different things. And looking at all of them together, the tag list for an individual song, it tells me a ton about the song before I even get my ears on it. For example, I have 4 categories for what I call vibe or feel. And that's thump, jack, bang. Oh, vibe, thump, jack, bang. That's my 4. And it's meant to represent a different mood that the dance floor is undergoing, or that I'm feeling, or where I want to get to, that the song represents to me. I also have a number of other categories that describe what the character traits of each song might be. For example, I've got disco, garage, tech, funk, Chicago, classic, and this is meant to vocals. This is meant to give me some information about what the elements of that particular song are. I've also made little categories for samples that I have always used in the past and apparently will still be using now, of some of the favorite songs that were originally sampled to create some of the house music I loved. For example, I've got one for the South Soul Nugget. I've got one for No Big Thing. I've got one for Number One. So, and as I accumulate more songs that have the same sample, I just want to tag that so that maybe I don't unintentionally play a song with the same sample a couple songs apart. Maybe I want to mix them together to really put the spotlight on that sample. But anyway, that's another piece of information. And then when Rekordbox analyzes the songs, it does a few things automatically. It will analyze the key of the song and the BPMs of the song, and it'll attach that as metadata. So I want to describe the song. I want to create some information about the song at all times, that particular track, so that when I go to use it, I can do so with a lot of effectiveness. And then I've got performance pads on my mixing unit. My performance pads are in a 4x2 arrangement. And so every time I'm onboarding a new track, I also want to set some hot cues and some memory cues and some loops. And the ones that I know everybody's got a different system for doing this, but for me, I like putting a hot cue for the start of the track. I like putting a marker where the main bass line or groove comes into the track. I like to take a loop of like a vocal sample or something that is featured in the song so that I can tease it or bring back after the song has been played. I like to create exit loops. So I want to loop the outro phrase, or perhaps 1 or 2 bars of just the percussion with everything else stripped away. That makes a really nice transition out. A really subtle one anyway. I do like to create one of those as an active loop so that it automatically triggers. And then when I'm building these sets that I talked about yesterday, these playlists that I'm familiar with ahead of time, I put a marker where I want the next track to start, so I can always drop it on time. And if I stick to that, then that will be the mix that I've practiced, and the phrasing will be what I expected it to be. I know it's a lot of preparation. Over time, I know that it becomes easier and easier to just go off the cuff. But that comes with a lot more familiarity with one's music than I have right now. But I imagine over time I'll get that back again. Back in the day, we didn't have any of this. You couldn't see the waveform. You couldn't attach metadata unless you maybe put a sticker on the sleeve of your record or something. And all you had to do was rifle through your bag of music, pull up one of the vinyl sleeves, and hopefully there's a picture that'll jog some memory. Maybe that lets you understand the feeling of the song. Or maybe you're playing often enough that you look at the record or the artist and you know exactly what track it is. Both of those occurred. But I don't have that level of familiarity yet. So this onboarding process gives me a bunch of information and gives me a bunch of tools that make mixing easier and allow me to be more creative with things like layering or very subtle effects. So that's it. That's how I do, how I discover the house music that I've been buying and playing lately. Again, always buy it. Please support those artists. And then that's how I prepare my music. And once that whole process is done, I move it out of my work in progress playlist into my overall crate. And then as I build sets, they go into those playlists as well. So that's it. That's how I do it. That's today. We'll see you tomorrow for day 25, I hope. Ciao.